Resident Evil has a ton of little side content, right? They've got movies, they got TV shows. I'm pretty sure they even have a comic book series. And so I thought it pertinent, and I thought it would be fun to check out the side content and be able to add that to our general Resident Evil lore knowledge. You know what I mean? We keep up with a good lore board here for Resident Evil, and so I would love to add it to that. That's the plan. So we're gonna be talking about Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. So I'm letting y'all know right now before we begin, I will be spoiling the entire thing. Before we begin, so don't be surprised when that happens. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, also known as the sexier Resident Evil 6, because this story is basically the Resident Evil 6 story, but like with minor tweaks to it, okay? It's crazy. So, we begin in the year 2K, right? Destiny's Child was still together. We got the Y2K fashion. People were wearing the jean shorts and like the multiple layers. I don't know if y'all were watching Disney Channel. They wore like vests over t-shirts. It was crazy. It was crazy. But our story actually takes us to this place called Panam Stan, which is right there, and it's important for us to see that because it is right next to China and in the like Middle East. Okay, so keep that in mind. You got to keep in mind about Panam Stan because Panam Stan back in 2000 was engaged in a huge civil war. Right, they were fighting each other, guns blazing and all that stuff. And then, in the United States' infinite wisdom, in our infinite benevolence, we decided to intervene, as we usually do. We decided to intervene in Panam Stan, and we sent in all kinds of folks to try and stop the fighting, and they weren't happy with that. They were not happy with that. So they sent a militia to come and kill a whole bunch of us. One in particular got captured by this militia, and then they were getting executed. But then our boys all of a sudden turned into zombies. It was crazy. And then the zombies attacked everybody in the militia. It was a whole hullabaloo, right? A whole hullabaloo. Yada, yada, yada. So that happened in 2000. Cut to 2006. Okay, so 2006, to contextualize this for you, is 2 years after the events of Resident Evil 4. Leon has undergone his whole excursion in Spain, right? He survived Spain, and now we're 2 years after that. I don't know if we kept up with Claire on like what Claire was up to between that. It might be what goes on in Code Veronica. I'm not sure. I haven't played that yet, but that might be what happened there. But anyway, 2006 Panam Stan, Civil War is done, and now we have a kind of rebuilding effort, right? There's UN tents everywhere. There's like first aid places going on, and Claire Redfield is on the ground, and she's trying to figure out, she's trying to get to the bottom of what happened when the zombies suddenly attacked. What happened here? And she's asking all kinds of questions. And she meets this like young man right here with his back turned to us who witnessed the zombie attack. And that gets some cogs turning in her head. She's like, what happened here? I have to find out. So that sets her off on her course. Now, cut to Washington, D.C., where we finally put a face to the name. Oh, we finally put a face to the name. I was so pumped to finally see this man. I was so excited to finally meet President Graham, the father of Leon, of Ashley Graham, who we saved in Resident Evil 4. Super cool, super duper cool. And so we cut to him because there has been a recent security breach that happened in Washington, right? Computers were hacked. 2006 computers were hacked, where they only had the maximum of like 3 GB. And he needs to figure out who did this, because only a mastermind could do this. So he sends for 4 agents, 4 of the best agents that America has to offer. That is this guy named Patrick, named after the starfish in SpongeBob. Shen Mei, super cool. Then we got Jason, right? Also known as the hero of Panam Stan, because he served there. Keep that in mind. And of course... Oh, y'all, when he first appeared on screen, I was fighting back a blush. I was fighting back the strongest blush ever. I was like, oh, God, with a little stubble. Oh, God, caliente. He's got that tan from Spain, you guys. He got a tan in Spain. So he sends for these four, and it's super fun and exciting. But then, all of a sudden, the White House is attacked. So the press secretary is suddenly turned into a zombie, which turns more people into zombies, and they have to protect the president. And it's a whole big, Resident Evil chase scene, and they're shooting zombies left and right and all that stuff. And at some point, the defense secretary, Wilson, you gotta keep this man in mind, right? Just remember him. Remember Defense Secretary Wilson. He's like, you know what, Mr. President? I think it was the Chinese. I think it was the Chinese who hacked our computers. I think it was the Chinese who sent these zombies onto our White House. It can only be them. And President Graham's like, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it is the Chinese. I don't know. President Graham, you need to send these agents onto China, so they can investigate. Maybe I should. I don't know. Oh, God. But then he turns around in his desk and he looks at a picture of Ashley Graham. Ashley Graham mentioned. Ashley! And he's like, what would she do? What would she do in this scenario? And he's like, you know what? Go for it. Send him off. Do it. And so that ends up with our heroes getting sent to China. And of course, since there's no actually other way to get to China, I don't know if y'all know this, there is no other way to get to China besides submarine. That's how they go there. They go to China through submarine because they couldn't take a plane. Duh. Who would take a plane to China? Come on. The only true way to get to China is through submarine, chat. That's the only true way. So that's what they do. They send Leon and Shenmei and Jason on the submarine to go to China. Also, this is the part that I was not it was not super clear in my brain. Patrick didn't go with them. Keep Patrick in mind, the first agent. Keep him in mind, but he didn't go with them, and they just didn't explain why he didn't go with them. So they're on the submarine and they're sailing over there, and Leon's bonding with his new agent mates. He's gabbing with them, and he's letting them know about the pain that he went through when he was in Raccoon City, and how scared he was when he was just a rookie cop in September 29th, 1998, a day I'll never forget. So that's what they were doing. Then all of a sudden, the submarine is attacked. The submarine, the power goes out. The crew is dead. The pilot is dead. And then suddenly rats come bursting out of these bodies, and they're eating flesh. And Leon's like, oh no, not another BOW. And so he's fighting off these rats. Meanwhile, these two, Shenmei and I keep forgetting his name. I always want to say Lucas because it's the default white person name in my brain. And so Shenmei and Jason suddenly are like, okay, don't worry, Leon, let's split up. You go and deal with the rats, and we'll go over here and do something else. And he's like, great, I trust you. Well, he shouldn't have done that, because what he does instead, is they kill the remaining crew members. They kill the remaining crew members, and then they escape. And Leon's like, well, that sucks. So he ends up chasing them, right? He escapes the submarine and he chases them to Shanghai. So in Shanghai, he finally catches up with them, and they're like, listen, Leon, we're gonna let you in on what's been going on, right? We're gonna let you in on what's been going on. Leon Kennedy, we are committing treason. Leon Kennedy, we are going to expose the US government for the liars and the cheats that they are, right? What the public doesn't know is, back in Panamstam, some shit went down. Shit went down in Panamstam, okay? I'm sorry I'm having such a hard time pronouncing that, but Panamstan is where shit went down because Jason was there. Jason served in Panamstam and he saw all the horrors that happened. He saw the zombie attack. To what degree? We'll find out in a second, but he saw it and the government covered it up. Meanwhile, cut to Claire Redfield continuing on with her little investigation, right? She's investigating a squad called the Mad Dogs, right? The Mad Dogs are a special squad that were sent to Panamstam. And she finds something a little peculiar here, right? She finds out that most of the members that came back had committed, let me be careful with this, sewer slide. They committed sewer slide, right? And she's like, why would they do that? All except one person, and that person is Jason. The hero of Panamstan. Interesting. So, that's the update on Claire and what she's doing. At some point, we come back to Leon, and Leon's like, listen, Jason, it's no deal for me. I hear what you're saying. I hear that your squad is dead. I hear that what you went through was some shit, and I can relate to that because I was in Raccoon City. But I don't want to betray my country. And so he ends up fighting them, and he shoots Jason, and nice Jason shot. Appears to be dead, and then he chases after Shenmei, right? So that's what happens. So he chases Shenmei all the way back to her grandpa's place, right? And this is her grandpa, by the way, who is the head of a conglomerate in China. And she goes to him and she's like, how is he? And he's like, he's fine. And then finally Leon bursts into the room, guns blazing, and he's like, all right, I need to know what's going on now. Explain. And so that's when Shenmei reveals their plot. She says that her involvement started because this dude, Jun Shi, was also in Panamstan. He was not part of the Mad Dogs, but he was also in Panamstan. And he was injured in Panamstan and was saved by the Mad Dogs, right? But then something happened to Jun Shi. Something happened to him that she was distraught over. Because Jun Shi was one of the zombies. He turned at Panamstan. And she's like, okay, that's devastating. But what happened? What went down? And she was upset about it for a long time until she put the pieces together. Because this man right here, y'all remember him? I told you to remember him. I told you to put a pin on him. Defense Secretary Wilson was actually leading the stuff going on in Panamstan, right? And what he was doing was, he was experimenting, he was using viruses on Panamstan, and he was using BOWs in Panamstan, all because he worked for a certain secret, shadowy organization that will be named later, but he was doing that, and he was using Panamstan as a testing ground for all the sick deeds that he was doing. And he blew it sky high to cover up everything, to cover up his experimentation. And Shenmei wants revenge for that. Shenmei wants revenge. So that's where her involvement is. Now, this is the part where I cut in a little bit with my little Resident Evil 6 knowledge. Does this not sound familiar, chat? Does this not sound familiar? Does it not sound familiar to use BOWs and viruses on a war-torn country? Does that not sound familiar? Does it not sound familiar to have a rogue member of the cabinet? I don't know. It just seems a little familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't this sound a little like the Resident Evil 6 thing? I have a definitive slide on it later, but I don't know. At this point is when I was like... Anyway, so back to Shenmei's, right? It is revealed that Shenmei's grandfather has been pouring his life savings into keeping this dude Junyi alive, right? So he's like in this, he's still a zombie, but he's like, you know, he's trying so hard to like bring him back, but it's not working. And so this is what he ends up looking like. But in that kind of like experimentation of trying to bring him back, they find out that there's a chip. Like, you know, the chips that you put on dogs in case they get lost? They have a chip inside of Junyi. And Junyi's chip has enough information on it that can implicate Secretary Defense, Defense Secretary, there we go, Wilson. It can implicate him. It can put him behind bars. It can expose him for the disgusting man that he is. And that's why Shenmei and Jason went over to China. They couldn't just take a plane to China and grab the chip. No, they couldn't do that. They couldn't do that. They couldn't just take a boat to China to grab it. No, they had to go through the submarine, and they had to go through this entire elaborate plot just to pick up this chip. I don't know. It's a Resident Evil game. Or it's a Resident Evil thing. What do you know? Cut back to the president. So while Leon is over there in China figuring that stuff out, and while Claire's over there figuring out what's going on with the Mad Dogs, we are back in the United States. We're back at the White House, in the Oval Office, where Defense Secretary Wilson's like, listen, Mr. President, listen here. I believe that the Chinese are truly trying to screw us over. They hacked into our computers. They sent zombies to the White House. And don't forget this. Now they've destroyed our submarine. They've sabotaged our submarine. How much more evidence do you need, Mr. President?
Maybe you're right. Maybe I have to declare war on China.
While that is happening, Claire Redfield is being her regular self, and she's inquisitive, and she's like, I need to get to the bottom of this. It seems like Defense Secretary Wilson is the one who is in charge of these boys. So I need to get to the bottom of this. I need to ask the source. So she goes and tries to interview him, and she's like, can you please tell me what happened to Panam Stam? And Defense Secretary Wilson's like, no, I can't talk to you. And she's persistent, and then at some point, she goes back to her hotel room and gets kidnapped by him and his men. And she wakes up in an underground lab, because it's a Resident Evil game, and of course there's underground labs in a Resident Evil game, of course. So she wakes up in the underground lab where Defense Secretary Wilson stands over her, and he's like, well, looks like you caught yourself in quite the pickle. I told you're asking too many questions, and we can make this all go away if you just forget about it. And she's like, no, I can't do that. I need to fight. I need to bring justice, and the truth needs to be heard. Well, if you want the truth, I'll give it to you, but then I'll have to kill you afterwards. And so he reveals his true plot. Okay? So what really happened in 2000? So, as I said, quick rundown. Civil War was going on. They were using bioweapons and viruses in Panam Stam, and it was crazy. It was a wild, wacky party. 2000 was crazy. It was a movie. But at some point, after the Mad Dog saved Junyi, the zombie attack that happened earlier infested like most of that city. They infested and they overtook most of that city, and eventually they caught up with the Mad Dog Squad. And everybody in the Mad Dog Squad got bitten. They got bitten and they got infected. They didn't die, but they got infected, all of them. And there was only one way to prevent them from becoming zombies. And it was this injection. It was a shot. I need you to remember this part. An injection called an inhibitor. And the inhibitor was the only way that they could retain their humanity. And there's only one person who had access to that. Only one. And you guessed it, it's Defense Secretary Wilson. The only man who had that. And so he lorded that over their heads for years to come. For the next 6 years, he would use the Mad Dog Squad for whatever dastardly deeds he had in his brain. And he would pay them in the inhibitors, right? And he was the only person that could provide them that salvation. And so that's why many of the Mad Dog Squad ended up committing sewer slide, is because they didn't want to live like that anymore. They didn't want to live beholden to Defense Secretary Wilson anymore. That all happened until there was only one man left. Cutting really quickly to Patrick. Hey, remember Patrick? Honestly, y'all, Patrick's kind of a looker. Honestly, y'all, Patrick's kind of a looker. I don't know, y'all. I don't know. Patrick Star here kind of got me feeling some sort of way, chat. I don't know. He's like handsome. He's handsome. He's a handsome gentleman. So, Patrick has been left to the president's security detail. Hey, a man working with Secret Service, Helena Harper. So anyway, Patrick is watching out for the president, and he receives a call from a mysterious number, and he's like,
Hello? Who's this?
"It's me, Leon. Where's everyone going? Bingo?"
Oh my god, Leon! Oh, what can I do to help you?
"Listen, you cannot let the president make that speech about declaring war on China." "Oh my god, you're right. And what if he doesn't believe me? What should I say?" "Tell him Leon Kennedy called." And he talks to the president, and he's like, "Mr. President, please, Leon Kennedy said that you shouldn't declare war on China." And then President Graham was like, "You're right. If Leon Kennedy says that, maybe I shouldn't." And that's we averted a war in China. So God bless. Anyway, cut back to Defense Secretary Wilson. And Wilson's like, "Listen, me and my homie Jason, right? We've been rocking it since 2000, since Y2K, and we're best buddies now." But Jason's like, "No, we're not best buddies. I never wanted to be your friend. I never wanted to be your lover. You're ugly and you're disgusting, and I hate you." And then Wilson's like, "Wait, but you need me, sir. You need me. You need my inhibitor chip or my inhibitor injection, sir. You need it." And Jason's like, "No, because I have a better idea. Instead of fighting it, I'm just gonna let myself get infected. I'm gonna let myself turn, and then I'm gonna expose you to the rest of the world." And, you know, in Resident Evil fashion, he transforms. And he becomes this thing. Hey, doesn't he look a little bit like a tyrant? Anyway, so he transforms into this, and he begins to peg Defense Secretary Wilson. It's crazy. It's like a 10-minute long scene of him pegging Defense Secretary Wilson against this test tube tank. Trust me, I was there. And because he's kinky, he bites him. And he infects Defense Secretary Wilson, and that's crazy. And then, out of the blue, because it's a Resident Evil game, Leon is back in America. Leon and Shen Mei are back in America for some reason. Somehow they know where this secret hidden lab that Defense Secretary Wilson had the entire time, and they end up down there. Isn't that crazy? And so they confront Jason, and they're like, "Listen, dude, we don't do this." And Jason's like, "No, I must." And he like rips the floor out and like throws Leon away, and Shen Mei tries to confront him. She's like, "Jason, this isn't you. This isn't you, Jason. This isn't you." And Jason's like, "It is me. I'm sorry." And then he like snaps her neck. So, womp womp. And that's the end of Shen Mei. And so after that, you know, it's a Resident Evil thing, so there has to be a big old fight between our heroes and a big old BOW, and they fight. And it's cool. It was a cool fight. It was a decent fight. I wouldn't say that it's like revolutionary, but it was a cool fight. They fight. Leon wins. Bada bing, bada boom. Jason is defeated. Everything is cool. Everyone's happy, right? Everyone's happy. Well, not exactly. Because at this point, Claire and Leon have survived. It's great. It's wonderful. And they're like happy and, yucking it up. And Claire's like, anyway. So Leon, about that chip. Hey, that chip could like blow this case wide open. And don't the people deserve to know what happened here? And Leon's like looking at the chip in his hand, looking at Claire, looking at the chip in his hand, looking at Claire, and went, no, I can't give it to you. I want to do this my way. I want to stop the BOWs my way. And Claire's like, what? Leon, what are you saying? Leon, no. And you know what? I had the same exact reaction, Claire, because this decision makes absolutely no sense. Leon deciding not to go public with everything that just went down makes zero sense. Because you know what the next time we see Leon doing is? Like what the next thing he does is in canon? This man is accepting President Bedford's offer to expose everything that happened in Raccoon City. It contradicts the last thing Leon did. Or the next thing Leon does. It makes no sense. Why would Leon decline revealing everything that just happened, but then like a few years later be like, you know what? Yeah, let us reveal what happened in Raccoon City. It's frustrating. But anyway, so that happened. And Leon decided to take on the BOWs on his own. So, what happened to Wilson, right? What happened to Secretary of Defense Wilson? He lived. Womp womp. He lived, but now he's infected. He got bitten, and he's infected. He can transform into a zombie, and he's transforming into a zombie. But then his magical company comes through, and they give him the inhibitor injection, and they're like, here. And he takes it, and then the camera pans, and we see the logo on the case where the inhibitor injection is, and oh my god, it's Tricell. Oh my god, it's Tricell. Oh my god. So Tricell had been the ones infecting people in Panamstam. They've been the ones, what do you call it? Sending up BOWs there and all that stuff. Which is cool because it like kind of, shades in what Tricell was up to while Umbrella was still up and running. You know what I mean? It kind of shades a little bit and goes, okay, so like 2 years after the Raccoon City incident, Tricell was like experimenting in the Middle East. You know what I mean? So it's cool to kind of like put that piece together in the puzzle. So, I said I was gonna do this, here it is. How very RE6 of this. It's very RE6. There's so many elements in this TV series, it's only 4 episodes, that are like so, I don't know, it struck me as odd to make this kind of choice, you know? So like, both of them have like these war-torn nations which have been plagued by viruses and BOWs. Both of them feature a relationship that Leon has with the presidents, right? Bedford and then Graham. Both of them have like Resident Evil zombies, you know what I mean? There's no ganados, there's no like lichens, none of the people wielding tools, they're like kind of zombies, you know what I mean? The living dead. So both of them feature that. Both of them feature like these rogue cabinet members, like I said, a defense secretary, and then like the UN Secret Service advisor. Both of them end up going to China. Both of them have a huge submarine section. It's just odd. And I was like, I wonder if this is like, I want to know if it is like intentional on their end. It has to be. If it's intentional or if it's just lazy, you know, I want to know. Anyway, what did I think of it? As a TV series, I gave it a 3 out of 10. Honestly, like, it's fine. It's a fine series. I think it can get really, really super duper corny. You know what I mean? It's very corny. I think I would have much rather. I don't even know how I would improve it, to be honest with you guys. I think this could have been an email. This could have been a much shorter. Maybe it could have just been like a short little movie as opposed to like a 4-part series. You know what I mean? It's not terribly long, but even that I was like, ugh, this is a lot. So I don't know. It's okay. It's okay as in a show. But in terms of Resident Evil, for Resident Evil lore, I would give it a 5 out of 10. I think it's a decent piece. It's a decent chunk of the timeline that I've been hungering for. Like, what was Leon up to between Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 6? So it's cool. It's cool to know more about what Tricell was up to. I wish we got to know what the virus was. They never explained what the virus was. I was reading a Reddit thing that they were talking that it was probably like a different strain of the T virus, and that's cool, but I wish they like explained that in the show, you know? So I don't know. I think it's all right. It's an all right series. So I said I was gonna do this. Here are my top hottest Leons. We've seen Leon in 4 different things now. So here are my top hottest Leons. Number 4 is Resident Evil 6. He's okay in this, a little scruffy looking. I could appreciate that. I think that if they remade Resident Evil 6, he could top the rest of them. He could be the hottest Leon here. But as of right now, Number 3 is itty bitty baby Leon in Resident Evil 2. He's a cutie patootie. He just when he was like walking around the police station, and he's like, "You got this." Fills me with such joy and mirth. You know what I mean? I like Resident Evil 2 Leon a lot. Number 2 is Infinite Darkness Leon. He is like ridiculously handsome in this. The little 5 o'clock shadow thing he's got going on. He's like, how do I put this? I think he's 29 in this. If he's 27 in RE4, and it's 2 years after RE4, so yeah, he's 29. 29-year-old Leon. Ooh, gnawing at the bars in my enclosure for this man, dude. Ooh, Claire was lying. One of the things she kept saying was that he didn't look good in a suit. Lies. He looked ridiculously handsome in a suit. And number 1, of course, there's something that changed like my molecular biology when it comes to Resident Evil 4 Remake Leon, dude. Like my biology was changed. Chain scene, biceps, leather jacket. Oh my god, the amount of like roundhouse kicks this man does. Oh my god, the voice, the face. I have not been the same since. I've not had a single dream since we finished the RE4 series where he hasn't been prominent in it. Love you, Leon. Hope you're doing well. This is the lore board that I was using while I was watching it, by the way. This is the lore board I made for Infinite Darkness. So I added all the Leon stuff that I learned. This is Patrick. I'm telling you guys, Patrick is like handsome. He's so handsome. I love. It makes my heart flutter a little bit. Here's Shen Mei. I think she's so cool. There's Jason, his other form, the Mad Dogs. I had a Panam Stan. Presidential aide Ryan is not important, so don't mind him. Here's the timeline of what everything looks like. So Panam Stan Civil War, 2000. 2000 is the zombie outbreak. 2004 and 2002. Sorry, don't mind that. 2006 is when the main story happens. And also they say that there is like an attack that happened in Pittsburgh in 2005, I'm assuming. So I think that has to do with a movie, with one of the movies. So we'll find out what that is when we watch through the movies. Let's fit it into our Resident Evil history one. So if you don't know, as we've been playing through the games, we've been adding to our general RE history. This is what this looks like. Our general Resident Evil lore board. This Dar she blows. So if you want a quick run through, here is like Resident Evil 7 over here, RE3 is kind of here. We have Chris Redfield right smack dab in the middle, Jill's right there. RE6 sections right here, RE4, Las Plagas is over here, RE5, and talking about the Majini in the Kijuju autonomous zones right there. So that's all that. So I added Infinite Darkness right here, and I titled it The Panam Stam Plot. And so it all links to Secretary Wilson working with Tricell right here next to Resident Evil 5. So cool. I added Panam Stam and went down there. President Graham. And then Jason and Shen Mei are right there. They are right there. And then I added like a new chapter in their like personal story. So there's the Panam Stam plot for Claire right there. And then Leon, Panam Stam plot right there. Leon has so much. Look at that. The Raccoon City one, Los Iluminados, Panam Stam, and then Tall Oaks. This man's been through a lot. Mr. Kennedy has been through a lot. But not as much as Mr. Chris Redfield. Chris Redfield needs a retirement, dude. He needs a big old retirement party because this man has been through the ringer. Good God, good God. So there's that. And then I also created a new thing for us. This is the RE timeline. Because I feel like I wanted a place where I could just kind of like contextualize it in my brain. You know what I mean? I can see the RE timeline for myself. So, 1967, progenitor virus is found in Africa. 68, Umbrella founded. 77, Western Birkin begin working for Umbrella. 78, T-Virus, and then 1996 is Wesker joining STARS. So that's all pre-game stuff. 1998 is a huge year for Resident Evil. That's when Spencer Mansion happened, and that's when Raccoon City happened. And then I'm happy to add this now. Panam Stam War is in 2000. Very cool. 2004 is when BSAA was founded, and also when the Los Iluminados chapter happened. Then 2006, Infinite Darkness. 2009, RE5. 2011 is when the DSO was founded by Benford. RE6, 2012 is when the BSAA was in Edonia, so everything that happened in Edonia was in 2012 December, and then 2013 is Lanxiang, so everything that happened in China was in the following year. And then 2014 is when Evelyn, the E-Series, escapes the connections, and she is taken in by the Baker family. And then we see the Baker family incident in 2017, and of course, RE8, which we just finished today, is in 2021. We'll have to add the Rose DLC here at another time. Okay, that is our Resident Evil timeline, and that is me explaining and spoiling all of Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. Ooh, ooh, ooh.